Believe in Allah. Learn objectives. A mother and her daughter went to buy some things. On the way, the mother turned on the radio. The announcer said, "We will now listen to the recitation of Surah Al-Ikhlas by Sheikh Abdul Basit Abdul Samad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Say, O Prophet, He is Allah, one and indivisible, Allah the Sustainer, needed by all. He has never had offspring, nor was he born. There is none comparable to him." The daughter was surprised and said to her mother, "Mom, this is Surah Qul Huwallahu Ahad. I have memorized it well. Why did the announcer say Surah Al-Ikhlas?" The mother replied, "This is the name of the surah in the Noble Quran, my dear. This name, Al-Ikhlas, reflects the reason for its designation. Its verses encompasses the meaning of sincerity and monotheism. Whoever believes in these concepts and strives to apply them to their life is thus sincerely devoted to Allah. In doing so, they save themselves from the sins of associating partners with Allah. That is a serious sin that leads to the punishment of hellfire." The daughter said, "I have memorized this surah since I was young, but it's the first time I'm learning about these details. Does this small surah save those reciting it from the hellfire? How does that work? And what is sincerity and monotheism?" The mother replied, "The surah is not judged by its length, my dear. Reflect on its intended meaning and you will find that it establishes the perfection of Allah in all its forms, refutes associating partners with Him, and denies any deficiency attributed to Him in all its manifestations. Therefore, reciting it while believing in its meanings makes us more dedicated and sincere in our worship of Allah. We truly recognize that He is the one and only God. There is no deity with Him. This is how this beautiful surah saves us from the punishment of hellfire." The daughter said, "So, mother, what I understand from this is that sincerity is the honesty and dedication of the servant in his worship of Allah, and what is meant by monotheism is belief in Allah Almighty alone, and testimony that He is one and has no partner." The mother said, "Well done, my daughter. That is correct, and that's why sincerity and monotheism are fundamental pillars among the pillars of Islam." The daughter responded, "How is that, Mom? I have memorized the 5 pillars of Islam well, and I don't remember sincerity and monotheism being part of them." Her mother then explained, "The first pillar of Islam is bearing witness that there is no God but Allah. If you contemplate the meaning of this testimony, you will find that it consists of 2 parts. The first part is negation, and it denies the attribution of divinity for everything worshipped beside Allah, as in the statement, 'There is no God.' The second part is the proof, and it proves the worship of Allah alone, with no partner in His creation, management, or sovereignty. This is expressed in the statement, 'Except Allah.'" The daughter said, "Your words, Mom, mean that there is no deity truly worshipped except Allah, and we worship Him while believing in His oneness and submitting to His power. Is my understanding correct?" Her mother replied, "Yes, that's correct." Then she said, "Wait for me, my daughter. I will buy some juice from the store and come back quickly." While the mother was purchasing the juice, the daughter heard a segment on the radio channel titled Verses and Explanation. The verse stated, "Allah Himself is a witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Him, and so are the angels and people of knowledge. He is a maintainer of justice. There is no God worthy of worship except Him, the Almighty, All-Wise." This verse is evidence of the oneness of Allah, indicating that Allah testifies to His oneness. He is sufficient as a witness. The angels and those with knowledge also bear witness to His oneness. After the mother's return, her daughter informed her about what she heard on the radio. The mother said, "This verse, among many other evidence, affirms the oneness of Allah." Curiously, the daughter asked, "Are there other evidence for the oneness of Allah, Mom?" The mother said to her daughter, "Yes, my dear, we must first understand that the evidence of Allah's monotheism is divided into 3 types: innate evidence, Quranic evidence, and rational evidence. The evidence of innate nature, my daughter, is what exists within the soul as the knowledge that benefit and harm are in the hands of Allah. Therefore, the soul returns to Him in times of hardship and sorrow, knowing that no one can alleviate afflictions except Allah. In this context, Allah has said in one of the verses of the Quran, when you are touched with hardship at sea, you totally forget all the gods you normally invoke except Him. As for the Quranic evidence, we find it clear in Allah's verses from the Holy Quran. We surely sent a messenger to every community, saying, worship Allah and shun false gods. Likewise, in his verse, we never sent a messenger before you, O Prophet, without revealing to him, there is no God worthy of worship except me, so worship me alone. The meaning of this, my daughter, is that Allah sent all the messengers and prophets with one unified message, which is the call to worship Allah alone, without any partners. It included believing in Him as the one and only, with no equivalent, and has no offspring, nor was He born. The rational evidence, my daughter, can be divided into two parts. The first part is that the deficient cannot be a god. If we were to assume the existence of two gods for this universe, the first god wanted the sun to rise from the east, while the second god wanted it to rise from the west. Which God's will would prevail? If the will of the first God prevails, then the second God is not truly a God, because his power is deficient, and the deficient cannot be a God. Similarly, if the will of the second God prevails, then the first God is not of God either. This evidence is mentioned in the Quran, where Allah says, had there been other gods besides Allah, in the heavens or the earth, both realms would have surely been corrupted. So glorified is Allah, Lord of the throne, far above what they claim. This indicates that multiplicity of gods would corrupt the universe and disrupt its system. Allah also states in the Quran, Allah has never had any offspring, nor is there any God besides Him. Otherwise, each God would have taken away what He created, and they would have tried to dominate one another. Glorified is Allah above what they claim. As for the second part, it is the evidence of perfection. Allah Almighty created the universe in the most beautiful form and structure. If there were more than one God in this universe, their creations would have clashed. However, the universe is fascinated with beauty, elegance, precision, and perfection. Allah, the creator of everything, and the guardian over everything, says, Allah is the creator of all things, and He is the maintainer of everything. So glorified is Allah. Look around you and contemplate the creations of Allah. You will find His clear, manifested power in everything, even within yourself. This capability and the beauty of craftsmanship indicates that there is no God but Allah, the one, the unique, the eternal, who has no partner or offspring. Now tell me, my daughter, before we get home, what did you learn from our conversation today? The daughter responded, I have learned, my mother, that Surat al-Ikhlas encompasses the meanings of sincerity in monotheism. I understand that sincerity involves the genuine devotion of a servant to Allah, and that monotheism entitles believing in the oneness of Allah with no partner. I've also learned that the testimony of faith consists of two pillars, negating the divinity of anything worshipped besides Allah, and affirming the worship of Allah alone. Moreover, I now know that the evidence for the oneness of Allah is characterized into rational, innate, and Quranic proofs.